Add a clip now. He says you don't like. You need to know if I exploit it or I don't. Alrighty. Oh fuck, man, this is pointless. I'm just gonna get all your stuff. Can't do that. Proof. stuff. No, how? If you use a small potion, how long are you small for? That was not 30 seconds. It was already broken. The defense door was already broken from the last person. The miners were already broken from this person. Right, because you have absolutely no proof at all. None. Not a single bit. No, I'm not. Same for you. Will not show clip that you said you had. This Jonah guy might get banned for lying stuff. Lying. He said he has the clip and he's not showing the admin. He said he's not going to show him. Staff disrespect and a bunch of other stuff. I said I'll pay you. Show yourself. Supposedly going One minute, I'm checking something at Discord.
Despite this somewhat awkward river card. Now, as you guys have seen, so far it's only been, medium-sized pods, chipping away a little bit here and there, but all that is about to change when a certain player walks in who I have a little bit of history with. I've played quite a bit against him, and I'm happy to announce he is one of the most action players I've ever played with. Very successful in life and happy to gamble, admittedly so. Not really the type of player to shy away from action, so when he sits on my direct line, I know that this game just completely turned upside down. He is not going to fold any hand at all, and he loves submissions delivery, so hope you guys are ready for that. Anyway, in the very first hand that my friend here is dealt, he opens to $30. The action folds all the way back to me in the big blind, and I look down at ace-4 of spades. I make the call, and we go heads up to a flop of ace-queen-4. The spade. So right off the bat, we flop a great hand against what I hope is a strong hand from my opponent here. I check it to him, he puts in a bet of $20, and even though I should have pretty much no check raises in theory on this board, I got two pair against an action player, so I'm going to raise it up. Let's make it $75. My opponent has $1,500, which is max buy-in, and I'm happy to see that he does not call or fold, but instead puts in another raise to $220 this time, and I'm just going to go all in. If he has any ace, he's going to call. He might even call with hands like King Jack and King 10. I know what you're thinking. Is he really going to re-raise again on the flop of those hands? And honestly, your guess is as good as mine. I've seen worse, I've seen crazier, and I'm just going to get it in here. I'm also perfectly happy doubling him up since he's given me a ton of action in the past. If he's got me, he's got me. So I move all in, and I'm happy that we don't get snap called. He tells me he has two pair. That sounds like bad news, but at the same time, he's very capable of having queen 4. So not really sure how to feel about the situation. But then he shows me ace-4 offsuit, so I know we're chopping this one up unless we find a spade and then another spade. At this point, I decided to show the ace and let him know, hey, I've got two pair too. Seems to me like a decent idea. He's either going to put me on ace-queen, ace-4, or just a complete lie. But alas, my friend here is not the type to buy that crap. So he makes the call, doesn't even think too long about it. The runout comes ace-queen, and I show him the chop. No blood spilled in this hand, but as you guys can see, very first hand dealt, we're both all in, and yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. In the next interesting hand, there's a new position limp. The cutoff makes it $45, and I look down at pocket jacks on the button. I raise it to $165. Now the action gets to the big blind, and surprisingly, he makes the call. and everyone else makes the fold. Not really the anticipated result. I will say I was slightly concerned because this player in the big blind who just made a $165 cold call was also a player who was not down to straddle or do any bomb pods. When someone like this calls you with a massive pre-flop raise, it should be triggering some alarm bells, and it definitely was for me. This could even be a hand as strong as pocket queens, ace king suited, maybe even pocket kings from this player. So when the flop comes down 5-4-3, under normal circumstances, I'd be pretty happy with my holding, but in this exact situation, I had no idea if I had the best hand. So when he checks it to me, I decided to just check it back and see what he does on the turn card, which is a pretty good one. It's the 3 of clubs pairing the bottom card. It's pretty much a brick. Once again, though, he checks it over to me. Now I think he's got like ace queen suited, maybe ace queen suited, and we could for sure use some protection against those hands. So I put in a bet of $125. My opponent makes the call, which I found interesting because if he did have ace high, I expect him to just fold. But if he does have an overpair, I expect him to just bet it on the turn once I check back the flop. So not entirely sure what he has here. I'm just going to see what happens on the river, which is the 4 of spades, another good card. And when he checks it to me for a third time, he only has $300 or $350 behind. And I think I'm just going to go for it. If he's got queens, God bless him, but he's also going to have a lot of like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, maybe even pocket 8s, since I've been pretty active and he was starting to grow skeptical of me, I think. So I just move in and hope to get called by a worse hand. Fortunately, that's exactly what happens here. We get a dream situation when my opponent calls, I show jacks and he shows pocket 10s. So we get the absolute maximum here. And I'm very fortunate to have such a nice run out on this board because there was a lot of flops that would have completely killed the action. In this next hand, we're going to bring the focus back to the action player on my left that I mentioned earlier. I'm in the straddle in this hand, and we see a $100 open from him. The big blind makes the call, and I look down at red queens once again. A dream situation, even though he opened from under the gun, and it's a fairly big open. He's going to be doing this with a ton of hands, as well as we have this big blind call on my direct right, which seems like dead money to me. So I'm happy to put in the raise here, make it $400 to go. The under the gun player calls without much thought, and the big blind folds. So we're going to go heads up here to a flop of Jack 5 deuce rainbow. Now, as you guys can probably guess, this guy is the type of player who is more than willing to put in bets once he's checked too. So in a somewhat unbalanced fashion, I usually check over pairs against him. In this case was no different. I check it over to him, and in about 0.2 seconds, he announces all in for 1100. I couldn't call fast enough, and he couldn't show me pocket jacks fast enough. Heartbreak here. Absolute heartbreak, and we don't find any help on this run out. So we're going to double him up. But let's go. The battle has begun. A few hands later, the straddle is on, and we see an early position limp. I look down at King Jack of clubs when he actually gets to me in the big blind. And I don't want to complete here for $20. I want to raise it up, so I make it $100. The active player on my left makes the call, which I definitely anticipated. And the early position limper makes the call as well. The flop comes down 6-5 deuce. Pretty miserable flop for my hand, so even though we could go crazy and try to rep some overpairs across certain flops, turns, and rivers, I'm just going to check, pretty much give up here. Surprisingly, the player on my left checks. He must have absolutely nothing. And now the early position player puts in a $200 bet. However, he did this in a really weird way. I can't really describe it, but it was really quick. It seemed really forced. So even though I thought I was done with the hand, now I'm back because it just seems like he's c-betting too much, too frequently, and a little too aggressively. So let's see if he's actually got anything here. So I make it $800. Not the best play ever, but hey, it's what I did because I just felt like it would work. I had a gut feeling, you know? I'm a gut feeling type of player. The player on my left folds, and when it gets back to the early position better, he snap folds. So good read that time. Could have been a disaster.
No, I'm not going to get banned, 100%. I said as soon as he shows the clip of him rating me, he said he had the clip of rating us. He said he was going to show the admin. Now he's refusing to show the admin.
Gets back to the middle position.
So either he's lying to staff. So there's no way I'm getting banned. No. The most I can do is get off with the horn, and I said many times that I'll pay as soon as he shows a clip of him rating
The
legitly.
6 of diamonds, and even though we picked up a flush draw,
No
it
way
doesn't
to
seem
do
that
more.
great to bet still, since we only have middle pair. And I don't know. It
And
just
he's
seems like
stop disrespected this guy about 5
win.
times.
So that's what I
Or
do,
that's
and
a
my
bit
opponent checks
over.
the back. We're off to river
You
card,
didn't
which is the
exactly
beautiful jack
stop
of spades.
disrespect him.
I suspect we
But
probably have the best hand.
he said a
anyway,
mean
since
thing.
he will probably bet a king on the turn.
So he has like,
Just to be safe, now we
he
have
might
every kind.
get banned.
However,
Not
it is
necessarily though.
interesting because this card should
Might
be
just
a
get
lot
off with
better
a
for
line
his
stab
queens than
and
mine.
disrespect.
So it's kind of weird for me to just come out and bet. But I mean, I'm gonna go for value here because I'm gonna feel way too stupid if he checks back like pocket tens or something. So I put in a bet of $90. Doesn't really seem like he has much, so I'm trying to get called by a lot of hands here with somewhat small sizing. However, my opponent does not call, but he does not fold either. We hear a raise to $320. Whatever, man. If you got a better hand than me, here's your money. I call. He doesn't seem to want to show, so I just flip it over to everyone out there who gets so mad when I don't make people show their hands. This one's for you, because guess what? We'll never know what he had. Oh, Mariano, you're such a fish. Why aren't you making people show their hands? I just don't care. Alright? Don't get me all riled up in the middle of one of my vlogs. It's my style, okay? I don't make people show their hand. I don't want to hear any more about it. I'm gonna get banned, alright? Moving on. If it seems like I'm tilting, it's because of this next hand, alright? Here we go. I get pocket queens on the button. I raise it to $35. Action player on my left, boom, $305. Okay, yeah, sure. Make it 10 times my raise, right? Now, it gets back to me. I got like $2,000. Like I said earlier, big pocket pairs against this guy, slam dunk. Let's go. All in for $2,000. He's literally going to call me with any pocket pair, any ace. I'm not lying to you guys. You're just going to have to take my word on it. However, he's probably also going to call with kings most of the time. And yeah, this time's no exception. We're up against pocket kings. It's probably going to get all in pre-flop against most players, but the fact that it's against him is like, what? You never expect him to have that good of a hand, and when he finally does, it just seems, man, it's just brutal. The board comes out king high, and just to add a little insult to injury, we turn a set. I guess it would have gone down this way anyway, even if I just smooth call pre-flop, since I probably wouldn't have folded just a one bet on the flop, and then, yeah, it seals the deal on the turn. We don't find the fourth queen on the river, and once again, we double up our friend here. But still, like I said earlier, against these types of players, I'm happy to pay you off every single time. We are stuck now, though, so in for 3,000, and we have an uphill battle ahead of us. The night is young, stay tuned, maybe we can get it back. Alright, moving on to the next hand. The straddle's on, and we see an early position limp before a player in the middle position raises to $45. The small blind calls the $45, and then I look down at pocket queens in the big corner. Now this is an interesting spot because how strong of a hand is it really going to be from the middle position player when he barely clicks it up from the $20 gets to $45, and then the small blind calls. I mean, we're just going to have the best hand so often here that putting in a raise seems like the best thing to do. However, the downside of that is you get called, all of a sudden you're playing this big bloated pot with a hand that's very difficult to play, especially out of position. It's just going to be so hard to know where we're at. So I don't think just calling is any sort of mistake. In fact, I think that's probably best, even though we know we probably have the best hand. But I'm kind of in a high variance.
I'm literally waiting for this kid.
Let's kick the variance up. Let's gamble. $205 to go. The initial raiser makes the call while everyone else folds. So heads up here to a flop, Queen 9-6 rainbow. And like I said earlier, these sorts of hands are just so difficult to play because do we have the best hand? Should we bet for protection? Should we just check and then fold if he bets? Should we check and call if he bets? I don't know. I mean, I just have third pair, so I check. To be honest, I'm just
about 30 minutes.
back. I'm happy to see that he does. So we're off to a turn card here.
Yeah, we're just standing around.
Now I suspect I have the best hand already at the time. So I put in a bet for protection since there's so many bad rivers for us. Don't have to go too big here. Just
I'm not getting banned.
king highs and such. So I bet a third of the pot, which in this case was 170, I believe. My opponent makes a step, so nice to take this one down, even though probably not the best play.
During these tough times, professional truck drivers keep the country supplied with the essential goods that it needs to last. Truck drivers are deemed essential. The industry needs drivers more than ever. You're ready to help your country, your neighbors, and your family. Please call Roadmaster Drivers.
Attention, unidentified person of interest. Confirm your signal status with local protection team
Call Roadmaster
immediately.
Driver School or visit us at roadmaster.com.
It's impossible to think about where we're going without appreciating everywhere we've been. So as we look to making sure our soul remains intact. Some of the best of our past to shape a real future. It's American adventure. Electrified. Corner station. Now fueling our tanks with sunlight. It's an iconic SUV. Making it better. By you. And new trails beckon. More vivid than ever before. It's freedom at your command with a built-in co-pilot. And stories by the fire that bring us close in new ways. And while we fix our eyes on the road ahead, some things must always remain. 4 Navy tires, 7 slots in the grill, wide open space, steering, to empty sky.
However, there is a simple solution to playing middling pocket pairs, and that is to upgrade them to really big pocket pairs. So that's what I decided to do in this hand. There's a cutoff open to $60, and I look down at pocket cards on the button. Now here comes the special surprise in this hand. The player on my right is the same action player from earlier, but he decided to move seats to my direct right, and I quote, "Because Mariano, it's going to be easier to double you up if I sit on your right." Yeah, his words, not mine. I'm telling you, this guy is just one of the coolest, friendliest dudes I've ever played poker with. So when I look down at Pocket Kings, I figure, well, let's see if we can do just that. So I'm making $300. He opens to 60, I'm making $300. I know what you're thinking, that's massive, but as you guys can probably guess by now, it's probably not an issue with this guy. And indeed that's the case because he thinks like 2 seconds and puts in the 300. So we're off to a flop here, heads up on 5, 3, 4. He checks it to me, and because he's calling with so many hands pre-flop, I'd almost rather just give off a free card and hope that he improves in some way, because I feel like if I bet here, he's just going to fold so many hands. So I do just that, I check it back, and we're off to a turn card, which is the 3 of clubs. Pairing the board and adding a flush draw. Now there's quite a bit of draws out there, even though they're all low cards. Like I said, my opponent could very easily have some straight draws, some pairs, flush draw really. And it seems like that's the case because he puts in a bet of $400. He's probably doing this with a lot of air balls, like just queen high or jack high or whatever. But he's probably also betting like hands that want to continue, such as flush draws or pair flush straight draws or hands of that nature. So if he's bluffing and I move all in here, it's obviously a mistake because it shuts down all his bluffs that he would have put in on the river. However, if he has a hand like a flush draw, it would be kind of a blunder to just smooth call here because if we move all in, we could get our opponent to commit all the money to see the river card. So it's kind of a pick your poison spot. I decided on just moving all in here. Enough of the game. He has the keys to this board, he can call it off. And with just a cat fold, like that's he starts tanking and thinking about it for a while, and he actually asks me, "Do you want me to call? I have a flush draw." I just keep things honest, and I say, "Yeah, if you have a flush draw, of course I want you to call." He's like, "Alright, I call." So we're gonna play this massive, like $4,000 pot here. He shows king 8 of clubs, so hopefully we hold just once against this player since he's been kicking my ass all night. All I want to see is a red card, please, dealer. Okay, sweet. Not exactly proud of this hand because I didn't do anything special, but I'll take it. Happy nonetheless. A funny note after this hand, earlier when he flopped a set of jacks against our pocket queens, he actually gave me $100 chip right after the hand as like a rebate. Just laughed it off. So I felt like now it was my turn to do just that. So I shoot him back the $100 chip, and we got a little bit of camaraderie going as well as lots of gambling. Highly recommend it.
I told him I'll pay him as soon as he shows the clip.
I've been watching Lincoln all day. It's your turn to watch him.
Cool.
Get up.
I am up.
I think get off that. Logan,
Sorry, my obnoxious brother's in my room.
And now Logan won't get off his